Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody doing today? First and foremost, a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the organizers. Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody doing today? First and foremost, a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the organizers. It's an absolute privilege to be in Turkey and to be in Istanbul with you here today. For the youth in the room, I want to make it very, very clear. You are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are the leaders of now and today. Okay? And I don't just want to say that to you. I'm going to run you through some slides and a presentation which will dictate to the rest of society, public sector, private sector, that the future of this world depends on this generation, both from a commerce perspective as well as a societal one. And if you look up on the screen, you'll see that the organizers asked me today to speak about the future of business and the future of investment and money and what's on the horizon. What I'm going to be able to tell you today is that not only is there the biggest wealth transfer in society, and I'm going to back up. It's too bright up there. Now I can see you. The biggest wealth transfer in our history that's happening intergenerationally is taking place right now. What does that mean? $60 trillion will be transferred from Generation X and the baby boomer generation, from our parents, our grandparents, our big brothers and sisters, to the millennials. The first $5 trillion is taking place in 5 years. Okay, and I'll tell you more about that. But before, a little bit about myself. I'm Ahmad Ashkar. I'm the CEO and founder of an organization called the Hult Prize. The Hult Prize is the world's largest student organization that's building startups that solve our generation's toughest issues. I serve on the board of a bunch of different companies. I've gotten a bunch of great honors, and you can find out more on Twitter, etc., Facebook. I've got this book coming out based on our knowledge that we've been able to capture about this millennial generation and why the pursuit of impact is the right way forward, not just for society, but also, again, for profitability. And we'll talk about some future business opportunities. In 2012, President Bill Clinton, who's a big supporter and spokesman of Hult Prize, named us one of the top 5 ideas changing the world. That's important for everybody to know so that you understand the significance of why. We didn't know it at the time, but this transfer of wealth to the millennials is what it's all about. Obviously, we cracked the code. While the idea of business as a means to solve some of humanity's toughest challenges might seem new here in Turkey, it's the biggest news that's happening in the developed part of the world, and it's now catching up in the emerging market. Okay? I'm also the founder of something called the Laudato Si Challenge. So I get hired by heads of state, Catholic Church, others, to build entrepreneurial programs around the world. And this is another great program. I bring it to your attention because, again, this moving trend is something that is not only important to government, private sector, but also one of the world's largest religious institutions. Now, $60 trillion. And again, I apologize for the picture, but I need to make a point to you. The people who will control the money, the hands is changing. The rules are changing. Everything we know is changing. And who's going to be spending? Millennials. How many of you in the room associate yourself to a millennial? Show of hands, please. That means, for those of you that don't know, you're born sometime between 1980, maybe 82, to 2000, early 2000s. Show of hands. Okay. At least 3/4 of the room. You guys in the front, no. I'm on the cusp, okay? Now, I want you to take a moment to look at the slide very, very closely. 8 out of 10 millennials seek out brands which are having impact, which they can associate with impact. Now look at the number all the way on the other far side of the screen. 60% of them will pay a premium. That means the companies of the future, the investments of the future, again, 5 years, the first transfer happens. If your company doesn't create an offering that resonates to millennials, you'll be dead. Your company will be dead. Your investments won't be worth any money. Okay? Because millennials will be the CEOs, the shareholders, the board members, and the consumers, and the employees of these great companies. Right? Now, let me tell you what got millennials into this phase and how I got started down this path. I started my career in Wall Street. I was an investment banker. I'm the son of Palestinian immigrants who came to the U.S. with nothing. And I believed that the only thing that would validate my existence was making money and making mom and dad proud. And that's not because we loved money or we thought that we needed to buy things, but society told us that if you want to measure yourself and benchmark yourself against this success metric, that you need to make money. I learned quickly in 2008 that making money was just a little bit of the story because the market collapsed. I was one of the top real estate investment bankers. I was using my Arabic background, raising money from the Middle East by the hundreds of millions of dollars. And literally, I showed up to work on our Long Island office one day, and my other partners decided we were closing the firm and moving to Saudi. I was smart enough to realize that the fallout of the financial crisis was coming soon to the MENA region. So I began to ask myself, what is life and what is the pursuit about if it's not money? How could I make my mom, when she's talking to her, my aunties, proud of her son, right? If it's not money, then what is it? I said, must be fame. Maybe I should move to Hollywood in the United States. I'll become an actor. I'll get Facebook followers and Twitter likes, and that will allow me to kind of feel good about what I was doing and where I needed to go in life. But again, in doing my own due diligence and talking to people who had gone down that route, I realized that you're still empty. Certainly, I don't know if you can see, you can't see it in the screen, but I have the ivory towers of the Ivy League in the background over here. So I thought it's pedigree. We come from a generation of engineers, doctors, maybe lawyers if those two aren't good, but certainly not bankers, entrepreneurs, or hustlers, even though the very place and city where I stand is the frontier of the hustle. But that's not accepted, or it wasn't. So if it's not pedigree, if I can't get that Harvard MBA to make everyone happy, then what is it? Well, we came up with the idea of the pursuit of impact. And I went to business school when the markets fell out, and I developed and started the Hult Prize, which today is backed by a Swedish entrepreneur, which endows us, supported by the Clinton Foundation. And the pursuit of impact, I assure you folks, in one clean sweep, can make you all the money you want to in the world, can give you all the pedigree. There is no better pedigree than having impact and transformation on society. And as you'll see from some of the more slides I share with you, there is no better fame and reward you can get from society than having this impact. But what is impact? What's it all about? Well, today we can actually measure it. When I started my journey, the idea of impact, no one really knew what it was. For us at Hult Prize and some of the other industries that we work in, we define it as changing trajectories. So my purpose today is to simply change your trajectory. Maybe not today, tomorrow, but in your lifetime. In business, you're talking about it today, an $8.7 trillion market. So the 60 trillion I talked about before, that's over by 2060, the next 40 years. But today, it's 8 trillion. 1 out of every $5 spent moves towards impact. And every 3 years, the market's expected to double. I gave a similar presentation last year And these numbers were a third off. So whatever we're forecasting, it's not correct. When you want me to tell you about what's on the frontier, right, the organizer said, tell us what's on the frontier of investment and finance. I assure you, this data, aside from our experiences, proves everything you need to know. Now let's talk about it more granularly. We're here in Turkey. What can we do? This is a Brookings map, and World Bank came together. This is the entrepreneurial map. The darker the blue, the more activity there is in our region. For startups, this is the number of startups that are registered. And as you can see, the star up here on the map is where Turkey is. I think Turkey is the most well-positioned country in the region to take on the biggest crisis we have that we're facing. Brookings put out this report a couple years ago. This is the gap in jobs required to fill the demand of youth. It's 80 million in the next couple of years. What happens when these jobs aren't filled? I'll tell you, there are some organizations that continue to hire, and they have an infinite amount of funding, and they love taking our youth and providing them with economic opportunity, because after all, if there's economic opportunity, that's really what most people, young people, want today. But I think we can do it with impact. And if we look at impact as a sector and look at Turkey as a global player in the economy, how does Turkey and its youth capture some of this $60 trillion market? What's the solution? Right? How do we do it? And this is what we used to think of as achieving impact. Let's go to the streets. Let's march. Let's ask the government, third parties, raise our hands. Let's get some kind of change done on the ground. Well, that was okay. That's fine. But we can now harness that 1.0 mentality into the future. And we can parlay from a ground level rebellion to an actual 2.0 edition, which moves us into the startup universe. Capitalism, folks, is not going away. The world, I don't want to come up here and fool you that the world is being run by people who are not capitalists. It's not going to change. Money drives us. We're humans. But that money today is changing narratives. When you chase impact, you increase your pocketbook. For the first time in history, there's something called a social innovation premium. My book's out later this year. You can pick it up and read about it. But it's the idea that through generating impact and building companies in the way I have displayed, being profit, right? You're looking at how can I be profit-minded, but also impact-centered and market-driven. You can build corporations which only look at byproducts of existing, but as long as they're designed correctly, they just make money. But they do it in a way, I'm going to go back a slide, that literally the existence of the company allows them to be better and have more of a market impact on society than that they don't exist. And I'll give you a couple of really good examples. So instead of, I'm not talking about measuring the 31 and 96 and 101 different ways to measure impact that your traditional NGO or government may do. I'm talking about the inputs correctly so that your output, the only measurement you need to look at is revenues generated. Here's some companies doing it today. Aspire Food Group, you may not heard of. That's actually one of our Hult Prize portfolio companies. I'll tell you more about them later. Everybody in here, I assume, has heard of Nestle? Show of hands. Good. So I got the opportunity to sit with the chairman of Nestle during UNGA week, a couple of weeks ago. And he delivered 2 speeches at the UN that talked about Nestle, one of the largest companies in the world, their impact on society. By targeting impact, they've been able to create one of the biggest brands, the wealthiest brands, and pay back shareholders at a rate that doubles some of their competitors. The world and its challenges are better off because Nestle exists. Are they a nonprofit company? Absolutely not. Their job is one-fold: to maximize shareholder value. We live in an era where the maximum, you guys, you know what I mean when I say maximize shareholder value? Stock price. The only thing that matters to Nestle is their stock price. Paul Polman, who's an advisor on the Hult Prize, you sit with him and he doesn't talk to you about what type of products are in the pipeline. What's the next flavor mayonnaise that they're going to come out with? He doesn't care. He literally, all he's doing is thinking about ways that his brand, the people he employs, and the products he launches to market can have impact. So this is called designing for impact, and it's what's on the horizon. One of those companies, Bupass, was a Hult Prize recipient back in 2016. I guess that was last year. Today, Bupass is the largest transport company offering peer-to-peer and bus transfer in Kenya. They've just won and been awarded the ticketing platform for the Kenya Railway 1 year after launching. See, at the Hult Prize, we don't just identify companies, we create them. And that's the methodology that hopefully I'll be able to tell you, give you a sneak peek on what we're going to do here in Turkey. So again, to clarify, what are we looking for? We're looking for the impact first enterprise. Not a nonprofit, it's not a business. It makes money, but it does so in a way which can generate revenue and be profitable. But with every dollar of revenue generated, there's impact felt along the value chain. Everybody know who Tesla is? It's Elon Musk founded. Elon Musk is one of modern day's legends in tech. He developed a new product. You might know Tesla for its cars. You may not know them for their roofing materials. So what does it mean to design for impact? Tesla has created a roofing product, which is displayed on the slides. You can see them here. 1, 2, 3, 4 brands. They have solar cells built into them. So you don't just go and you see the solar panel in the slide. That's 1.0. 2.0 is there's no delineation between the actual construction material and the solar panel. One swoop. It's cheaper, it's renewable, and it looks fantastic. Tesla. Next example, this is Aspire Food Group. John Chambers currently came on as a major investor. John Chambers is Cisco, just retired actually, was a Cisco technology CEO, chairman for years. This is a company, ladies and gentlemen, which manufactures insects for human protein consumption. Okay? And if you look at the screen, you'll see that beef takes 2,500 gallons of water, okay, required for 1 pound of protein, half kilo. The same exact amount of protein can be generated with 1 gallon of water, but you switch from beef protein to cricket protein. Now, not everybody likes to eat bugs or the idea of it, but guess what they've created? They've created a soluble, odorless, colorless powder, which they're making. And you can just sprinkle it on, whatever, doner kebab or whatever you want. But the point here is that this company will be a billion-dollar company. They're worth over $120 million today. They came out of the 2013 Hult Prize, and they were 4 students. By the way, the Hult Prize, we're in universities only and exclusively. We go into the universities and we hack those universities and we turn job seekers into job creators. So that's Aspire. And then we have Falafel Inc. Anyone from DC? Falafel Inc., actually, I laugh because it's actually my company. I'm giving myself a shameless plug, but I can't think of a better example. It's a falafel and hummus shop in Georgetown. For every $10, which is our average ticket, we feed a refugee for a day. Simple. But that's not designing for impact. That's more buy one, give one. Where we're designed for impact is where we actually hire refugees and we turn them into franchisees. Within 24 months of starting, they get to own their own business. And then they hire more refugees. These are the businesses of the future. This is a very, very profitable company. I can tell you that. I can vouch for it. And this was our most recent Hult Prize winner, 4 Muslims from Rutgers University. We were here at the United Nations where we celebrated, those of you that have been to Jordan and are familiar with the service taxi vehicles, this company created a technology like Uber for service. So it's point-to-point rideshare for women in Arangi town in Pakistan is where they're launching. And they're currently figured out a way to bring the idea of rideshare to the bottom of the economic pyramid. Again, I can keep going with this list. The Hult Prize has launched some of the world's most game-changing social enterprises. In 2016, we put 14 companies on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. I'm excited today to announce Hult Prize Turkey. We're bringing our global methodology to Turkey, where we have programs in place already in the region. The central bank in Lebanon is supporting our program. We have the largest startup prize there in the world, in the Middle East. Hult Prize Turkey, I want to call out Volkan. Can you stand up for a minute? Volkan is a student, and he's leading Hult Prize Turkey here with our central organization support. Again, the young people are the leaders, and we're currently in the process of raising the largest startup grant, which will be provided here in Turkey, specifically to the youth. We will guide them through our methodology, and we will build you here a company. Give us 36 months, 3 years, a company which will be leader in its sector. Young people are unbelievable. There's no obstacles. They're limitless. And provided with the right ecosystem, they're unstoppable. All you need is one. This is a map of Silicon Valley. People think Silicon Valley is this couple 100-year-old place that started and was invested in at Stanford. No, it wasn't. Silicon Valley was started by one company. Okay? Semiconductor company. Started by a Nobel laureate who happened to move to Redwood, California on a fluke because his mother was ill. And he created one company. From that company spun off 92 publicly traded companies that created $1 trillion plus of value and economic wealth. The founders, the 8 original founders and hires, went on to create some of the most legendary brands. That's all it takes is one. So with that, it's my pleasure to be here with you today. We don't have any times for Q&A, but I will be around, and it's been an absolute pleasure to deliver to you what I believe is the future of business. Thank you very much.